Welcome back to the Marianne Hickman Show. This is Talk Tips number 38. This is all about how to sell from stage. Now, I know when I say that word, a lot of us get this stomach in our knots and we cringe in that because no one wakes up in the morning and wants to be sold to. We're going to tackle that in this episode. Check it out. All right, let's learn how to sell from stage without sounding salesy. Nobody wakes up in the morning and takes and like, oh my gosh, I hope I get a telemarketer calling me today and shoving a product down my throat that I actually don't need. Guys, service and selling, when you do selling, right, they are the same thing. I've seen like so many hokey videos online about sales is service and service is selling and blah, 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 blah. But the truth is, when you find a product that you love, you feel better off having spent the money on that thing. Now, when we have hiccups or issues with this, or we feel icky about it, it's because internally we are still working with unresolved issues around sometimes it's money, sometimes it's confidence, sometimes it's our product. However, when it feels very, very natural, you know you're on the right track. Let me give you an example. I was online yesterday and I was scrolling through social media, I was scrolling through Facebook, and I saw this post. Oh my gosh, I'm about to throw some people under the bus. I apologize in advance, but you got to hear this feedback. So I was online and I saw this post that says, don't go see this movie. It's awful, right? And then I was like, oh my gosh, which movie is it? And it was a movie that I had seen. And I was like, you know what? I totally agree. And then later on, there was this other post that said, you have to go see this movie. It's so good. In fact, if I were to recommend a movie to you that I absolutely loved, do you remember the last movie we saw in theaters, Richard, that I was like leaning forward in my seat and I was like, we can watch this 5 times. It's so awesome. When we saw Top Gun 2. Was it 3? No, it was 2. It was Top Gun 2. Yeah, I was like raving about this movie. Now I'm a pilot. I love this movie. There were some like unrealistic parts of it, but the adventure of it was so good. I was leaning forward in my seat and like, I can't believe this movie was so awesome. Everyone should go see it, blah, blah, blah. And it was so easy for me to talk about this movie because I loved it so much. Did you get that hint drop right there? Did you get that big clue? When you love something so much that it's as easy to talk about as it is your favorite movie, then that's when you're selling. I'm selling people on going and seeing this movie. I'm saying you should go. In fact, I'll go with you. Let's go see this movie together. And when I'm saying, hey, you shouldn't go see this movie, it was awful, it was terrible, it was so incoherent, there were so many things that popped up, I'm also selling. I'm saying, don't go see this movie. What I'm doing in both scenarios is I'm pitching an idea. And that's all sales is. And guess what? You've been doing sales since the day you were born. Absolutely serious. You've been pitching ideas. When I had my baby 2 years ago, his first sales pitch to me was to feed the kid. And he made my life so much happier after I fed him because the crying stopped and the wailing stopped and he was so much more comfortable and he was happier, which made me happier. I was sold on this idea of feeding my kid. Now, I know that seems a little bit detached and overly simplistic, but that's the reality of it. Our kids are selling us all the time. If you have kids, you know this. They make pitches to you as a mom, and then they make pitches to you as a dad, and you better hope that mom and dad have talked to each other because that kid's going to win. They know how to do the pitch. They know how to put the puppy dog eyes on, and they know how to sell this thing. Your lives are going to be so much easier. I really want this thing. The whining will stop when this happens, right? Sales really is selling something that you believe in. So tip number 1, when it's time to sell, you better believe in what you're selling. If you're on a sales floor and you don't believe in the product that you're selling, I guarantee your closing ratio will be much smaller compared to the sales reps that are next to you that actually believe in what they're selling. When I ran a multi-million dollar sales floor, I was a consumer of the product. That's why I was continually, when I was taking leads, instead of like in the management level, not taking leads, every time consistently, when I was taking leads and I was doing the selling, I was in the top 3, if not the top salesperson, because I was a consumer and a user of the product. And it made it so easy to sell because I was a living, walking testimonial of it. When I got on stage and represented the product there, I was the most successful in my sales because we had the know, like, and trust factor. I knew, liked, and trusted the product, and I had amazing conversions because of that trust factor. Number 2, you might have a product that you believe in wholeheartedly. You're a user of the product, you're a walking testimonial of the product, and yet when you get on stage and it's time to pitch, Nothing happens. Now, what's going on? You know your product, you like your product, you use your product, you're a walking testimonial of your product. If you're not converting, chances are it's not because the product isn't good. It's not because even the audience doesn't want it, but because it's not a natural next step for your audience. Let me give you an example from a real life experience of mine. I'm going to tell you about one of my worst first dates. Didn't lead to a second date. I was single, dating, Utah County, a recipe for not fun. And I was on lots of different apps. I was swiping on Bumble one time and I came across this profile and it was time for our first date. Now, we met at like a little ice cream shop down in some small city down in southern Utah County. And when I got to this ice cream shop, the dude was there waiting for me. And I was like, cool. But he came to my door of my car and kind of shocked me. I was like, well, okay, that's a little much there. Opened my door. We went inside. I barely had time to get my seatbelt off. And then we're sitting down and eating. And I'm eating my ice cream and I'm listening to this person. He's talking about his life and he's talking about his history and he's talking about his ex-wife and he's talking about all these things. And he's leaning in really hard, like wanting to take it to the next level really, really fast. And you better believe I was backing off. I was like, this is too much, too soon. You might be a nice guy, but I don't think I want to pursue this next level of relationship with you. Imagine going on a first date and the dude asking for the second date the first moment you meet. You walk into the first date and he's like, hey, I'm so excited for our second date. And whoa, back off. No, I'm not ready for that level yet. Totally will sabotage your results. If you are too aggressive with shoving what you think your client needs down their throat before they're ready, they're going to back away from you, which is really unfortunate because what you have might actually serve them, but it's too soon in the timeline. We need to develop more of a relationship. We need to develop more trust. That date would have gone way better if he had asked me about myself and what I need and what I'm hoping for and what my goals are in life, and then see if it naturally leads to a desire for a second date. If you're on stage and you're pitching and you're like, hey, I know we just met. I have a $10,000 course. It'll do this, this, and this for you. Your clients will be so disinterested. So far from interested. Now, guys, I have $10,000 products. I have $30,000 products, but I don't lead with that because I don't know if it's what my client needs. If I have a client that says, hey, what are the prices for your products? I'm going to tell them, hey, I have products that range from $500 up to $30,000, but I don't know which one to talk about with you because I don't know enough about you. I don't know which one you need. And when you're speaking on stage, it's the same thing. This is why in my last talk tips, I said, you got to learn about what your client needs first before you represent options to them, before you pitch anything from stage. If you have a low closing percentage, you might be going too far down your dating timeline, which is why when you're pitching from stage, make sure it's a natural next step for your audience. I'm going to say that again. The natural next step for your audience, the thing that they need next. If you're talking on stage like I do, and maybe you're saying, hey, listen, I'm going to talk to you about how to make money from stage. This is how you do it. This is how you get more stages. This is how you turn those stages into revenue. This is this, this is this, this is this. Listen to the questions that you get at your presentation. Listen to the questions that say, well, how do I get more stages? How do I convert those stages? How do I do this thing? Then my product is going to answer those questions. My call to action is going to answer those questions. But what do I do next? That's when you know that it's time to pitch that next level. That call to action should fit the questions and answer the questions that come at the end of your keynote, which means you might do several keynotes before you design a product. Every keynote should have a call to action, by the way. Listen up. Every single keynote should have a call to action, even if that call to action is send me a message on Instagram, send me a message on LinkedIn, put your email in for a newsletter, whatever the case may be. You want to bring your audience with you because listen, if you don't do a call to action at the end of your keynote, you are ripping yourself off, you're robbing your business, and you're robbing your audience. Because if you do a really good job doing your keynote and the audience is leaning in, physically leaning forward, they want more from you. And if you don't provide a way for your audience to get more from you, then they're left without. I have had several keynotes that I have gone in and listened to. And I think, oh my gosh, how can I get more of this? How can I spend more time with you? And if they don't do a call to action, I don't have a way to do that. And now we probably won't do business together. Chances are we'll probably never see each other again. This is why I want you to have a call to action. So if you want to eliminate this cringy, super salesy feelings, just as a recap, here's a rule. Number one, know, like, and trust your own product. Believe in what you do. Be a walking testimonial. This is just integrity in sales. If you're not a walking testimonial of what you do, or in other words, if you haven't practiced what you preach, then you should not be on stage. Number 2, make sure that is a natural next step for your audience. Don't ask to sleep with them on the first date. In other words, you want to give them the natural next step. Whatever it is they're asking for, that's a hint for your call to action. And number 3 is have the systems that can deliver on what you promise. Once you get your call to action on stage, you need something, whether it's you manually emailing them or you have a computer doing it for you through your CRM, have the ability to deliver on what you promised and more. Because when you give more than you ask, that is more than anything else going to create a trust between you and your potential clients. And when you have that level of trust, that's where the clients are made. And when you have clients, that's when you have revenue for your business. So send me your questions below. I want you to text me 801-509-5495. If you're driving, get pulled over and go back and listen for that phone number. Send me your questions. I want to know what you need to get your speaking business to the next level, and we will see you in the next episode.
Marianne Hickman here again. Listen, I hope super helpful for you. Maybe you learned something new. Share with me in the comments what was valuable. Or if you have a whole separate question like, hey, I wanted to know about this. I wanted to know about stage fright. I want to know how about my presentation on stage. I want to know about how to dress on stage. Anything that you want to know that's relevant to growing your business through stages, put the questions. Because guess what? I go through and answer all of those personally. That's not an agency or a VA. That's me going through and looking at your questions because you are who I am here for. So last thing is I want you to get this database. If you haven't gotten it already, now I've got thousands of downloads on this thing, so maybe you've got it, but if not, make sure you go to mariannehickman.com/database. What that's going to do is take you to a page. You're going to input all of your information. We're going to send the database to you. You're going to request access to it. I keep it locked down so I can make sure I get it to just the right people. And you're going to request access. And then once you have that, you're going to go through and apply to podcasts that have the topic that you'd be an expert speaking on. Here's the thing. I get this database updated twice a week. So there's always new stuff in there. And if you're a podcaster, there's even a list of guests that you can have on your show on that podcast. Maybe you end up doing a podcast swap and you grow your audience that way. Regardless, I want you to get it. So mariannehickman.com/database, and we'll see you in the next Talk Tips.